so we're gonna work on her hair. And now, like I said, I did start it yesterday, but I got interrupted, so we're not gonna do the whole sequence. Um, I did the consultation with her, right? She wants it short. We're gonna practice with the scissors on the graduated on the layering cut here, because clippers are much easier to create that layer. It's harder when you have to hold. And her bangs are already curved forward. Sorry, again, I'm not an influencer. I don't do this shit. So she's already got that half moon bang going on. So we discussed keeping it that way. No, I'm not gonna waste my cape for this. So we're just gonna use our wubbies. And so we're gonna keep the length, or the layer length, about 2 to 3 inches. And we're just kind of blend that with the side. We're gonna take this down a bunch and go from there. And in regards to this editing this video, you're gonna get what you're gonna get. I don't have the funds to hire anyone, but I'm using CapCut as my video editor, and I'm still learning. You'd think me being a 37 millennial, I know technology, especially with MySpace. I'm not an IT person. So normally we would have our stuff set up, but we do not. Because we are in a hotel, and it sucks. And so I'm just gonna spray her down, making sure I'm not hitting the cat, because she'll think she did something wrong, and she didn't. She's a good girl. I kind of wanna make sure it's not getting in the client's eyes. And I'm a lefty. Oh, this is gonna be fun. Try to do it from the side. So her ear is about here. We're checking that section by balancing. I'm just gonna cut through here. And I do want some of the back pieces forward. That's right. I had my shirt backwards, so my clips are wrong. But we want clean sections, right? Gonna get sprayed, and I'm not gonna be able to help you. A little bit more. It doesn't have to be dripping, it just has to be damp. And a lot of times, dry cutting first is a better option anyway. But because I had to leave her dry randomly, I want to actually flatten her out. And so, ready to cut her short in the back, and now I just need to clean up the length. These are supposed to be ambidextrous shears from Cosmoprof. However, when it gets too hairy or too wet, it does not like me using my lefty. Which means I might have to learn how to cut right, and I'm not okay with that. Or, let me rephrase. I'm uncomfortable with that, but I am adaptable. And because our length right here is down here, I'm not bringing my hands up here yet. I need to keep them low. Just barely start an angle. Just barely an angle. And I'm in a stand. This is supposed to be quick, so I'm not trying to adjust her too much. In the salon, ergonomics, your comfortability, their comfortability, very important. If you're on your own, do what you got to do. And then I'm just going to take that up the center. I'm not going around yet. I'm working on my guide. Need to make sure it is even and how I want it to be before we get in the nitty gritty. Because otherwise, if I fuck it up, I have to go through all that again. And then we'll have to cross-check it, of course. Which is simply if I'm coming vertical, cross-checking is coming at an angle or coming at horizontal. So, picking up where we just left off. And you don't want to have too thick of sections. One, because hair pulls. So you could be over-directing hair. And you don't want that. Which would then make so if I'm in the center, and I'm pulling from this way, it's now going to go from short to long. I don't want to do that. We're going to move our guide around versus bringing the hair to the guide. Does that make sense? Kill the piece off right there. And it took me forever to understand this, right? Because of just the way my brain works. It's easier to see it on the top versus on the side. This is a flat plane of existence, right? And so it's easier to see how length gets cut one way or the other when you pull. Just like I said, if you're over directing from center hole. But this is my guide, and I'm pulling the hair this way, but I'm still cutting up here. That's my stationary guide, and I'm creating layers, short to long. But if I take this and I continue to move and continue to move, that plane shifts. We're now running with the head, with the shape, and each new part is a new plane of existence, essentially. It can be very intimidating and confusing at first. I'm not a fan of head sheets sometimes because of that. And that's also why it took me 20 years for this to truly integrate into myself, is I had to look at different perspectives, different angles. I had to leave it and then come back to it. Maybe I found the answer through not even hair, just something I did that was similar, right? It's geometry, it's angles. So maybe I did something with another creative process that I do, like painting or whatever, that showed me how to do that. So either way, as you move around though, it's going to keep the same length. That's the round layer, right? Versus the graduated. I probably have these terms wrong. Please feel free to correct me, nicely of course. I learned these terms 2 decades ago, okay? It can be very confusing sometimes. And so yeah, right now we're just gonna actually, because I wanted it shorter and longer. So what I'm actually going to do, excuse me. Once I get my guide in, I'll show you my plan there. Try not to go past the second knuckle. You risk cutting yourself, which then you have to stop everything you're doing in order to clean up. And so already you can kind of see, come on girl. Already you can kind of see where I've been cutting right here and how like that piece right there is super long. And then we've got little layers right here. We're gonna come through and cross check it. And then this also sets us up for the other areas we need to cut, because now we're actually creating the guide in a different angle, so that if when we have to come down this way, like a chocolate orange, it's easier. Excuse me. That was impressive. Got hair in my fingers. And they say to flip it when you're not using it. I cannot master that technique. I also don't have long enough of a blade for that. So I'm just gonna try to palm it and keep the blades closed when I'm not using them. And for the most part, we did that at 0 degrees elevation. Oh, I'm sorry. Ugh, see, this is why I'm not good at this. I'm learning. I'm not raising it up like this. I'm keeping it low. Yeah, these shears are really better for dry cutting. Now, I am getting to a point where I can't bend like that anymore, so I have to switch sides. Oops. And though that happens, I can accidentally change my angle by doing that. So I need to remember to stay down. And sometimes it might be too thick. We actually need more water. My poor cat. The wider side is great for dry cutting. The closer together teeth are better for wet. I don't know how best to describe it, it just is. Now I did come at a higher elevation for this side because we are getting up into the sides. So I want it to be shorter. Sometimes when it doesn't like to cut, I have to flip my hand. I don't know why it does this. The scissors irritate me, or these shears irritate me rather. So now I am, that plane I am actually coming at an angle. I don't know if you can see it from this way. So rather than come down here, I'm coming out roughly 45 degrees from the zero of the neckline. So on this side, 0 degrees lines up with the neck. On this side, 0 degrees lines up with the top of the head, because that's the plane of existence, right? So I'm going to come out at just a slight angle, upwards, to create that graduation that I want. I don't know how well you can see it from there. We've got I don't do this shit, okay? I'm an old millennial. So, just gotta clean up the top, really. Mm-hmm. Remember, we're going up too, so we've gotta. Where's my cat? Where it drops. Good. So we're over directing now, so we can add those angles. So if small section. So right here is 0 points for this section of hair. When we come down here, we now go from short on the bottom, long on top. When we cut upwards, when we overdirect upwards, we're now doing the opposite. The pieces up top are going to be shorter than the pieces on the bottom. you can have multiple cuts, multiple styles, like round, long layers, all that. You can have it in a single haircut. It's all about the creative dynamics, how you're cutting the hair. And so you can kind of see, because I'm doing this on purpose, I will complete the cut on my own time, but you can already see the different angles, right? It almost looks like there's holes in it. And that's the, honestly, a good way to practice and to learn, is see how the holes happen as you cut. So right now, it's doing this number. Yeah, I should have washed her, or rinsed her out, but that's okay. It's not a big deal. If you ever lose your guide, just go back, do a quick check. And remember, you can always take more off, you can never add back, so start small. Yes, they want you to do it within 30 minutes, but sometimes, especially as you're learning, it doesn't work out like that. But that's what practice is for, right? Now, the plus side of cutting like that, too, you want it safer. Well, if you get hurt versus the client, but you can also kind of see the line a little bit better. Actually, that cleaned up really nicely when I did that. That cleaned up really nicely. And you risk not cutting your knuckle like you would the other way. So that's nice. That's also a positive. Now, cross-checking this area by going forward, by over-directing backwards, and seeing that line, how creating it longer this way. And now, you don't necessarily have to start from the bottom, especially if, like I said, I'm lefty, so me starting on the bottom here is actually going to be more painful for me and more complicated than just taking the guide that I'm already done with on top circling this way and then going downwards. Up to match this piece up. And so I just want to take this over, direct it a little bit. Already here at the top. There. And then that can help guide it down. Because sometimes it's easier to see, move things this way. But again, when you're coming around the side, you kind of have to work and move with the head. And that doesn't mean staying in the same spacing or location that you were before. Because that can actually make things uneven. You don't want that. Whatevs. And we're going to go back to down 0. You can't really see it, but I am down at the bottom doing my zeros on this side to match. Lovely. Yeah, I can already start to see that graduation of the layers. Sometimes you don't need to take a lot off, you just need to kind of clean up that area so it looks uniform. So I've got an angle, how I can see it, like that on this side. So I need to match it up on this side. Which means we need to take a little bit more off. Yeah. And so if you can't figure out where that spot is necessarily, just pull around with your guides. Again, cross-checking is very important here because that's somewhere where you messed up. And it can be difficult to get these bottom pieces, which is why it's very important to ask. Do you want it clipper cut down there? Or do you want it shear cut down here? Because you can only really grab so much at that angle. And to really pinch half an inch of hair is difficult. Especially when she's thick. Or he's thick. Or they. Whoever. Get to you there yet because there's a piece up here that I need to cut. Have to figure out where you went. There you are. Gotcha. had to find out where I was losing. I don't know if you can hear my geesey babies. Find short piece, and long piece. No. Yeah, there it goes. And point cutting is good because it provides, you can cut and it doesn't give that harsh blunt line. I've not been too much of a, I mean, I didn't start point cutting. My cosmetology school, we didn't do that. No, it wasn't really known by that, I guess. But it does provide, like, for instance, if you have little pieces here. Okay. I don't know how much my mom just did that, but whatever. So yeah, point cutting. I don't know if I can see it. Can't really see it in this one. See if I can turn her head a little bit. I know I could have just rotated, but why? So right here, just point cut. It's not, it's beneficial if you want to remove weight without taking length off. In this haircut, want that extra weight at the moment while I'm still shaping. Over direct. Alright. So I don't know how well you can see the layers in the back because she's got different hair colors, but as you can actually kind of see. So we have short, and we just grow it long. And kind of creates this nice round. And again, we started at 0 degrees, and then we angled it up this way. Then on this section, we pulled straight up, and then up here, we over-drew. Sorry. So at the beginning, at the bottom, up to pretty much occipital bone, which is that piece that protrudes right here, is I did it 0 to about 45. Then here, at the flattest part of the flat plane, right, I pulled straight out. And then up here, as we started to get to the curve, to the flat top of the head, I then over directed and I pulled it to match the top. Let me get closer to you. You can see the layers she has. Like I said, she's gone through it with color, so she's got different things in there. I'm hoping that kind of helps you see the layers better. Now that did take me 30 minutes, but that's because I'm stopping and chit-chatting, right? Don't put your clips down. Once you put them off, they are no longer to be put on that client. You need new clips. Don't want to spray them in the face, so angle and comb it back as you spray. And that way you can smooth the hair if it acts like that clip just kind of created a little dip in the hair. But smoothing it back gets the water out of their face while smoothing the hair. I am sorry, Joy, if I hit you with the water. You're not in trouble. You're a good cat, and I love you. Alright. Now, what side you start on, left side or the right side, is completely up to you. And I guess what's easier on your body. But either way, what you really want to do first is get your guide up top, right? We already did at the back sides, and now we just got to do whatever we're doing. And since we have things up here, they're basically going to match up top the bangs. So again, this is a flat plane of existence, right? Because the top of the head is relatively flat. That's 0 degrees. When you start, we'll say, come on, Brittany, you're gonna fucking teach right. 0 plane of existence, right? We are straight off the top of the head. That's 0 degrees from point. When we come out this way, say this is 45 degrees. Just a slight. Think about angles, right? When you're in math class. An obtuse angle is what? When it's wider than over 90 degrees. An acute angle is when it's under 90 degrees. So that 45 degree angle is going to be, girl, what the fuck happened here? There's a whole ass gap spot. What? Yeah, she got breakage from something. Anyway. So really here, we're just going to do small acute angles. We're not doing obtuse angles. And already, hold on. See if I need to cut anything off the top. When I pull it up, it's a little bit. Little bit. I meant to say a little each, a little bit, and it came out bitch. That's not what I intended at all. And so you just want to go along as far forward as you need to. Get that guide, right? And this time, once I get closer to the bangs, I'm actually over directing backwards to the back of the skull, because my center point is right here at the center of the head. And so So if my center point is right here, then all of this needs to be overdrafted backwards. And that's going to create the length for the front, right? Whereas over here, center point is here. If I brought it forward and cut, that's going to create it shorter in the front. And we're just going to follow our path. And I like to do, when it comes to the sides, I like to do the top first. Because again, we can take length off. We cannot add it back on. See, that just doesn't want to do it at all. Sure. You're fairly brand new. Like, what are you doing? The reason I take longer than the standard 30 minutes or less is because I'm a perfectionist. And I don't like, I know that I can be a mess. Ow! My hand just did some freaking weird ass cramp. And that was uncomfy. I don't like that. She has such thick hair. And see, you can already see that it's right there, and then it's almost like a shelf. I don't want that. And so, we're actually going to angle it upwards. This is where over directing and pulling towards the back on the side is very beneficial. Because then you can see holes that you might have made from different perspectives. And just keep moving it around until you find those spots. That's the cross-checking, right? Just because it looks good at one angle does not necessarily mean that's true for all angles. Whatever she's doing. Alright. For some reason, left side is always difficult. I don't know if it's because I'm left-handed, but like, for some reason, doing a left-sided while left-handed is a little trickier than doing the right side left-handed. I don't know. Gwen, you okay? You gotta get that hair blow. finish cutting the bottom first. Get that out of the way. And actually, in this case, I am going to separate this. Clean sections are important. Sometimes it is easier to see everything when it's flat, but not in this case. At 1 o'clock, so I actually have to pay attention to what the fuck I'm doing. And as we get closer to the ear, because the ear will pop it up, that's when you have to be very careful about. So I'm gonna do 0. Just straight across. And so I'm not going to go too crazy because I don't want it to get too short above that ear. Bless you. At least not right now. Hold on. Because didn't I want it to angle that way? Yeah, I did. Okay. So just kidding. Scratch whatever the hell I just said. I'm actually going to, because I want it to match the bangs, I need to angle, right? So flat, gotta figure out where you at. And if you can, if you're visually able to, you're basically just lining, right? You're just seeing that invisible line, and that's where you're cutting. And because we don't want to cut her, we have to go away from the face. So we're going to come downwards, and I'm just going to do my best to loosely cut. God, I hate these shears. And just kind of wispy coming down. We're not doing too hard of a blunt cut. We're just wisping. Just remember, we're angling. And then that kind of also gives us a way where we can just come back and clean that up. So now we have that angle we need. Actually get a little bit more off. So as you can see, there's still quite a bit, well, I don't know if you can see it. There's quite the best way. If you pull forward, you can see that this is still longer than the bang. So what I'm going to do here, I have an idea of where that is. And we're also going to pull it forward. We're going to cut. You may have to pull it forward at different angles in order to get that line that you want. Yeah, that's much better. There's still some pieces I can just point cut anything up here. Shape that out. A little bit better. But you get the idea. And that sets us up for success for the next trip. I come here, I'm pouring forward. And then my other guide's down here, so all of that can come off. But we're only gonna do a little bit at a time. And we're keeping the angle low and downwards, because that's how we're swooping the hair, right? Yeah, there we go. See now, it's kind of, it's going this way now instead of. Yeah, I'll feed you in a little bit. Actually, your bowl should be going off fairly soon. And then remember, you just cutting what exposed, or that's not part of the guide. And if there's nothing cut, there's nothing cut. Well, I pull forward, I can still see that line. So we're gonna go through. Nip it down. Sometimes you have to cut middle of the section and you think you might not know where the line is, but if you're doing that, you should be able to grab it in the middle. I should be able to see this point, see like, oh, even if I can't cross, I can at least cut to the knuckle and know where that line needs to technically be. Almost has to go. And if it falls, it is unclean and it must go in. Actually, you just leave it the fuck alone until you're done with your client. You don't touch it, you don't pick it up, nothing. Just come on out of it. So for now, I'm gonna leave that alone. I've done most of what I needed to do with it. I will be coming back to it, just not right now. It's so much easier for me to like. Oh, you get fit when that thing goes off. That's good. Sometimes if I don't know how I did something, I need to go back to the other side and redo it. Or just like redo the motions so I know what the heck I was doing. There we go. I'll figure it out. I hear me doing things I don't want to do. I don't want it to do. So I'm gonna keep it a little bit longer so that when it dries, it's gonna get a little bit, maybe it'll jump up to the ear. I accidentally did it. I don't know why. I'm pretty good at bucket cuts. Because buckets are really just round cuts, honestly. bit too extra because I do need it to dry. But I'm going to now turn her around. Put a name on the video. Oh yeah, this is that look of, what is that comedian? Oh, I love her, or them. Oh my god, if you remember her name, you tell me. She's this wonderful Asian lady. Oh my god. Dark black hair, has that bowl cut. What is their name? I can't remember. I know, I did their haircut. Crazy. So, yeah. So I didn't quite do what she and I discussed. Actually, I think I made her better. I don't actually really want to bring out the clippers on her, to be honest with you. I'm just going to go through. I'm just going to, again, don't get in the eye. Oh my gosh. Oh, it's done. There we go. It was irritating me. I'm just gonna check the different angles. Honestly, she looks pretty good. It did take me an hour and 15, hour 10 to do this. But again, we stopped and we were chit-chatting. I was trying to teach. I don't know if I was successful, but I hope you got an idea. At least now you know how to do bowl cuts. But normally in a salon you want to do this in 30 minutes or less, and that includes the drying and styling time. Honestly, it's one of the reasons why we dry cut first, is to just, especially length, we don't need that length, get it out of here. Washing is really just when you're getting into like the details, because it's easier to grab a bunch of hair and cut when it's wet versus dry. Dry, especially with these shears, I can't remember, the by Cricut. I get them from Cosmoprof, but it just, sometimes it works the right way, sometimes I have to come at an angle. It's just really annoying. But yeah, so thank you for joining me on this process. And I don't zoom in. So see how she is? Yeah. Thank you for being on this journey. And yeah, let me know if you want any other looks done, and I can do a tutorial or just a practice piece, just so I'm used to it. It's been a while. Yeah, so thank you so much.